Hello, welcome back. This is Miniature Mike. Today I want to do a very interesting special video. When I first started this channel, I did a bunch of tier lists for each set. I did that for the first 15 sets, and then I moved on and started making a lot of different videos after that. So ever since I've done that, I've spent a lot more time, as you know, kind of getting back into the game, learning characters, talking to people in the community, about meta and all those kinds of things too. And I really wanted to go back, take another look, and just kind of update that tier list, and kind of just see what can I do to improve. How do I want to maybe switch things now that I've had more time to kind of get more acquainted with it? So I'm going to go through, do a redo of all of these sets, kind of like a revamp, a 2026 edition, if you want to call it, even though technically nothing's changed. And I thought that'd be a lot of fun. So I'm going to do this for these 15 sets again, and just kind of release them throughout the year, just kind of as it makes sense. Anyways, let's jump right on into it and not waste any time. Let's see, I need to pull up the old one on the side here just so I can compare. So this time around, what I want to try to do is, I still want to try to be fair to the older sets. They're older, they're obsolete, a lot of the characters not as good, but I think I want to try to look at them more inclusively of just kind of the game in general. Like, how well are they really compared to other characters among the available characters? So not V sets, of course, just the actual printed ones. So let's jump right onto it. First one's first is going to be Forlom. So I put him in B tier before. I think that's probably still fair. I might put him in A tier just because he's a good cost, great stats for the cost, can have a really accurate and powerful shot, can get upgraded pretty easily, and I think that's, although I think now I might raise him to A tier just because I like, for what he is, I think he's cheap-ish, and he's good enough for that in my opinion. So there we go. So let's move on to the next one. Let's see here. That's going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I still think Obi-Wan Kenobi's S tier. I know technically he's been passed by other Kenobis, but he's only cost 38. Force Spirit 8 is just so powerful and so strong. And I still want to put him in S tier for Rebel Storm, even though you could argue maybe he's a little bit lost his luster, just a tad. So, but that's okay. I think he's still worth it. So next is Bespin Guard. I think the Bespin Guards, I still don't think they're that great, to be honest with you. They get advantageous cover. So if they're in cover, they can get 20 defense instead of the normal 16, which they would get otherwise. However, they get +3 attack. They cost 5, so you could argue, kind of like a Stormtrooper would be. They're kind of like Stormtroopers in cover, but with one less attack. So they're just kind of still objectively a little bit worse. Not that much worse. I don't think they're like. I think looking back, I put them in D tier. They're maybe not quite that bad, to be honest with you. They're still cheap. They cost 5. They can benefit, from great defense, of course, but they're not like a Stormtrooper. So I'm going to put them in C tier. I think I was going to put them before they were in D tier. That might be a little too low. Just kind of taking another look at. They are a grunt unit, so I've got to keep in mind that they are not quite as bad as otherwise I could put them in. Next we get Boba Fett. So I think Boba Fett is still, I don't want to make sure I didn't skip anybody. Yeah, so Boba Fett, still, I think he's got good powers, good stats. He's still kind of vanilla, but I think for what he does, I think he's still an A tier character. Just because, even for how old he can be, he still provides things. Whereas I'd put the other Boba Fetts in S tier, most of the other Boba Fetts in S tier, just because they just have more going for him. But I still think this guy's worthy of being A tier, just even upon revaluation. Next, let's jump right on into this Bosk. I don't think Bosk is really all that great, unfortunately. So he's cost 17, and his double claw attack, he's going to probably die before he gets to use it, and he has to get too close. I'm not a big fan. I think I put Bosk in C tier before. I think that's probably still fair, to be honest with you. I think maybe even D tier, but I'm going to put him bottom of C tier. We'll see how it kind of ends up shaking out. Next one is the Bothan Spy. These guys they're really no good, honestly, in my opinion. I'm just going to throw them all the way in D tier. No good. Bad stats, grenades 10, that's all there is to it. C-3PO, same thing here. He's a cheap character to have draw fire, so he's just kind of exists to maybe take a few shots away from whatever main character you want. I put him in B tier before. I don't know if that really makes a whole lot of sense. I'm going to probably just stick him, I might stick him down in C tier. It is nice that he's so cheap to be able to use draw fire just for a couple shots and then he's dead, but I don't know at the end of the day if it's really worth it. There's a lot of other better options, so I'm going to put him in top of C tier. Maybe even B tier again, but we'll see how it shakes out. See, original Chewbacca, I actually still think that this Chewbacca is fantastic. I'm going to put him top of A tier, and the reason why, maybe even S tier, because one of the cheapest Chewbaccas still. Great stats, and 2 super useful powers still, and you can easily tack on any commander effects to make him better. This guy might even jump up to S tier just because even on Blue Milk he's only like a 7 point something, which technically isn't that great. I think that's underselling kind of how good this Chewbacca is. You know, top of the line HP. You know, it's good. Commando on speeder bike, it's okay. I mean, you can accelerate to get a treble. You can go your 12 squares to your strafe attack, and the stats are fine. Costs 21. I'm not a huge fan of this particular Commando and speeder bike, although keep in mind you could probably do Crick's Mating since it is a Commando technically, and you could get Cunning Attack and you can make for a really crazy strafe run. Other than that, I still don't think it's that great of a thing. Notwithstanding, commander effects could of course make it a little bit better, but I still think you generally don't really see these guys very often. So I'll have to put it down. I'm still going to put it down in C tier. So next is going to be Dengar. Dengar is just fine. 15-point shooter. I think originally when I put this, I put him in B tier, I think. Yeah, I think B tier is fine. It's just, for 15 points, those are pretty solid stats, to be honest with you. Those are actually really good stats. Those are the stats you'd see on like an Elite Sith Trooper, and the Elite Sith Trooper has nothing else. So I think it's actually kind of fair, even if it feels kind of vanilla or bland. I think it's fair for B tier still. Sand Trooper on Dewback. Do I want to change this one from what I had before? Before I had the Sand Trooper on Dewback in B tier. I think that still might be a little bit even too high for this guy. I'll probably do low B tier, maybe drop it to C tier. You got awesome HP. Having momentum's nice. It is a trooper, so you can get a lot of really nice abilities and powers on this thing, but overall, I don't know. It's a really cool mold, of course, super cool mini. It's just I don't think this really is necessarily B tier, just because it only does 10 damage and has low attack. But I think it has enough survivability warranting it to stay up there, and it's really cheap. It's only 15, so I think it's worth it. I'll do B tier. Duros Mercenary. Sorry, I'm not. This doesn't excite me very much. It costs too much. It's a 6. I'm gonna throw this straight in D tier. It's no good. D tier, just like before. Emperor Palpatine. So technically, I put Emperor Palpatine on throne above this guy, but I think the original Emperor Palpatine is still great. You start with a lot of force, you have renewal, and then of course your commander effect's fantastic, and it only costs 40 points, and you do have solid force powers. So if there was like an S plus tier, that's where, and I may even do something like that, that's where the Emperor Palpatine on throne will go. But I think this Emperor Palpatine is still, in my opinion, an S tier character. So leave it there. The original Ewok, I put these in D tier before. I think they're probably, I'm going to put higher D tier. I don't think they're too bad. The Swarm power isn't quite as awesome as it really seems, but I don't think they're necessarily like the worst thing. So maybe I'll do low C tier. I don't think they're terrible for a grunt. You can get worse grunts maybe, but Elite Rebel Trooper. I'm not a really big fan of the Rebel Troopers in general. They get twin attack from the captain and some other things, but at the end of the day, their defense is just so crummy. You're just gonna get killed, and I'd rather have a Hoth Trooper anyways. So I'm gonna have to stick these guys in D tier. So they're all going down there. Rebel Trooper going down here as well. I'm just not a fan of these guys. I prefer, objectively, next to the Stormtrooper, they get 3 more defense, but these guys just get 1 more attack. That's not very good in my opinion. So Rebel Troopers down there. Gamorrean Guard. This guy costs 9. Doesn't have a whole lot of great stuff going for him. I'm still gonna throw this guy in D tier. Unfortunately, it's just not. It doesn't cut it. The defense is really bad. You'll get killed before you can do anything. The newer Gamorreans, the Gamorrean Bodyguard, that's where it's at, in my opinion. So gotta put this guy down there. Greedo's okay. A cheap bounty hunter, has cunning and bounty hunter. That's not bad. I might actually stick this in B tier because costing 12, those are good enough stats for someone who costs 12, even in later sets. I think B tier is totally fine for Greedo, and I actually put Greedo in C tier before. I think B tier is actually to be more generous, I think B tier is better. I'm gonna leave him right there. Han Solo, the original Han Solo. So this Han Solo, I think, is probably still maybe a B tier, a low B tier, a high B tier Han Solo. And the reason for that is because you do still got decent stuff stat-wise, and you do have cunning and accurate, and you can get some other, of course, commander effects to help out, but can't do anything higher. The other Han Solos, they're going to be A tier, S tier, as you'll see when we get to them, but got to stick them down there. Hoth Troopers, I think these are decent. I think I put Hoth Trooper in D tier. I kind of prefer the Hoth Trooper over the Elite Rebel Trooper just because it has, let's see here, it just has better defense and has a little more survivability. Does that mean it's a whole lot better? Not really, but I do like, I'm going to put the Hoth Trooper down and be in C tier. Rebel, let's see here, Elite Hoth Trooper, don't want to skip this guy. I actually quite like these, I think they're pretty decent, so I'm going to stick these in B tier. For a, just kind of like a Advanced Rebel Trooper, they have solid stats for only costing 12, and at the end of the day, I think it's good enough. A Hoth Trooper, Rebel Officer, these guys aren't that great. Just non-unique followers within 2 squares, get to attack. A lot of stipulations, not a great commander effect. There's way better commander effects you're going to see, so unfortunately for this guy, I'm going to have to throw him straight into D tier. Not a good commander. I think I originally stuck him in C tier, but I got to move it down looking back. Not good enough. IG-88, the original one, has Bounty Hunter and Double, but a great attack, actually. Really, really great attack, but I think this guy still costs a little bit too much for what he does. I originally stuck him in C tier. I think that's probably still appropriate. It just costs a lot, even though you can't get some shots off, so I might actually stick him. I think I might be a little bit more generous. I'm going to do low B tier just because I think C tier is a little too harsh. You still have great attack. 19 defense is nice, 23 in cover is great, and then you can get some really just high quality shots off potentially, but low B tier, no higher than that. So I'm going to upgrade from C tier, which is what I had before. Imperial Officer, actually I still think these guys are kind of sweet. Non-unique follower within squares, extra attack, that's goes straight to B tier in my opinion. I think that's a good, I'm going to do top of B tier. Great, I love that commander effect, it's nice, and you can do some fun stuff with it. The Thorian Scout. I actually quite like these. I think I overdid them a little bit. However, they are one of the cheapest people with stealth. I think the Grand Raider is cheaper, but you have cunning, stealth, you do have melee. I think these guys are still pretty nice. I'm going to put them in B tier. I think A was too high of what I did before, but I still want to respect them. I do think that they have a lot to offer for being a grunt, and I'm going to do high B tier as well. Not A tier. I think just in collectively looking at the game, they're not quite A tier, but they're still good. B tier, nice abilities for what they got in my opinion, but the stats are still pretty low. Jabba the Hutt, the original Jabba, not that good. So you get your reinforcements, and what you're looking at is a really hefty guy for 30 who can't move, or for 20 who can't move, and as bounty hunter followers get plus 2 attack. I put him in C tier before. I really don't think that this is I'm going to put him in top of D tier. It's a great sculpt, but the actual mini, I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's very good power. I think the newer Jabba is much better. I put this in C tier before, but it's just not worth it. It's just kind of this albatross on your team. The original Jabba, very interesting. So the stats for a 5 are quite bad, but you do get an ion gun, so if you can find ways to improve him, I guess he's a little bit better. However, I still don't think the Jawa was all that great, unfortunately, so at the end of the day, I was pretty generous with the Jawa originally, and when I did the Jawa, I put it in, let's see, I got my secondary one pulled up, put it in C tier. I still don't think that that's very good. I'm going to put them at top of D tier. It's just, an ion gun's nice, but they're just really bad survivability. They're really good, I guess you could say, like in a Jawa against a droid-specific squad, so I'll do bottom of C tier. So you can kind of, buff them up a little bit, but not good. Lando. So this Lando's an interesting one. For a 16, I mean, having double and having these stats is actually kind of nice. It's not bad. And then you make your Bespin guards a little bit better, so this guy can only work in one type of squad, and that's it, unfortunately. So because of that, I'm going to have to probably stick this guy still. I mean, he's got good stats, and if you look at my Lando video, which may or may not have come out yet, it's pretty meh, kind of a mediocre, average, below average character, so I'm gonna still put him in low C tier. It's just, you can only use them really with one type of character, and that's it. It's not very good in my opinion. Princess Leia Senator, actually still quite nice. Cost 13, solid stuff all around with stats. And then what you have going on here with the commander effect is it's the extra 2 squares move. I think still quite solid. I don't know if it really warrants an A tier, but top of B tier for sure. A very solid Princess Leia in my opinion. Maybe A tier, but I'm going to do top of B tier. As you'll see, I think some of these might kind of shuffle down from what they were before. Princess Leia Captive, I'm sorry, this isn't very good. Princess Leia Captive, a lot of HP, nice attack, but bad defense. You're not going to do much with this Princess Leia at all, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to stick this one in D tier like I did last time. Let's keep moving through this. Luke Skywalker Rebel. This guy is in a tier of his own. Last time I put him in F tier. Still belongs in F tier, but I don't want to go through the trouble of making a whole new one. This guy will just be the very bottom, and I'll leave it there. Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. I put Jedi Knight in B tier before. I think that's actually too high. Well, maybe. I think top of C tier is better for this one. Just because at the end of the day, this one's really just not that good. Like, okay, the stats do hold up for 27. Double melee holds up, but you have no survivability at all. And a lot of characters have some gimmick that can kind of keep them alive. Technically, I have Force a Leap, so I guess you could call that a survivability feature. And then you have Lightsaber Sweep, which I don't love either. I just think this guy's going to get killed a little too quick and is not very interesting. So I'm going to do top of C tier. I used to think more highly of Jedi Knight, but in general, I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. So maybe, I don't know, maybe low B tier, but if you look at my Luke Skywalker video, this guy didn't grade out very well, so I have to put him in C tier. Mara Jade, Emperor's Hand. Still a quite nice figure. Before I put her in A tier, I'm going to still put her in A tier as well. Really good. Only costs 20, cunning attack, and barrage, and you can do barrage a lot with the Emperor, of course. And Hand of the Emperor is great. It's definitely an A tier character all the way. Don't want to change from what I did last time. Mon Calamari Mercenary. This guy is still a D tier character, so I'm not changing too much there. Yeah, just bad stats for a 10. The double attack is supposed to raise this guy's cost from 5 to 10. That's too much. This guy should cost like, I know if you were to recost the old characters, you know, they are what they are because of power creep. But I think at the end of the day, it should have been like an 8, maybe, if that. Also, it doesn't pair well with some of the mercenaries, just because the mercenary Nim gives double attack, and he already's got it, so not that great. Probe Droid. Let's see. So I put Probe Droid in A tier before. I'm going to do top of B tier this time. It doesn't do anything offensively. It's just kind of there for recon. It can fly. That's nice. Self-destruct, you know, whatever. That's not really going to come into play probably, but having recon is nice, and it doesn't cost very much for recon, so I think at the end of the day I might still put low A tier, although you're still not going to see it very often probably in Imperial squads, just because other people have, like, you know, a lot of people run Thrawn, and Thrawn has Master Tactician, but I don't know. I think demoting this to B tier is probably appropriate, like top of B tier. It's a solid thing. It's nice, but I think it'll probably die pretty quick, and it's not going to contribute much other than that. But I don't know. It's kind of nice to have recon at that cheap level. You just got to be careful with it. I'll do low A tier for what it provides, but I'm pushing it. Quarren Assassin. These guys are actually quite nice. So good stats. They have mobile and cunning. So for being a Rebel Storm character, that's kind of just kind of generic. Kind of, you know, thug from Fringe. This is actually quite good. I'm gonna put it at top, like high B tier. It is a solid, non-unique Fringe character. It's still, even when I re-look at this set 2 years later, I like it. I think I might even like it a little bit more than before, but I'm gonna keep it in B tier. Let's see, R2D2. R2D2, even though this one's old, it still costs 8. That's very cheap, and I think R2D2 is still worth the S tier. Rebel Pilot, these guys suck. I just don't think they're very good. I'm going to throw it straight in D tier. Just, They cost a lot. Again, they just shoot once, do 10. Decent attack, raise 10. Not that exciting. I'm going to throw it down there. Not that good. Royal Bodyguard. A good defense, I guess you could say. Actually, really good stats overall. And it's the Emperor's Bodyguard. Not bad. I put it in D tier before. I'm going to do low C tier, actually, just because these are really nice stats. And if you pair it with the Emperor, even though there are better bodyguards now, which I'd probably put in like B tier or A tier, I think it's fair to raise this from D to C tier, just because it can be a decent, decent character to kind of help protect the Emperor. Scout Trooper, actually making really good time on this one. I think the original video was almost an hour, and I want to just kind of quickly update what I was doing before. Scout Trooper I think is actually still quite solid. I put the Scout Trooper before into C tier. I think C tier is probably still appropriate for it just because it doesn't do a lot offensively. Doesn't have great stats necessarily, but it's fine. I'm gonna do top of C tier. I think it's okay. I think it's an okay soldier, but not the best. Scout Trooper on speeder bike. I'm just gonna put next to the other speeder bike. It's technically a little bit better, just by a little bit. I think it costs more too, but that 17 defense is nice. I think the other one actually has 6. Yeah, I think they're actually similar, but a little different. Snow Trooper, I actually think these are pretty decent for 12. I think you have even better stats than the Hoth Trooper. You have 17, 6, 20, 30. That's really, really good. And on Empire, you can do a lot with these guys to make them even better. So I'm actually going to raise these from C tier to B tier, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to do low B tier. I quite like the elite Snow Trooper, and they can be upgraded, do some pretty nice things. So especially since they have 17 base defense, they have one of the highest base trooper defenses for Empire. That's pretty good. And then they can also shoot. They can do damage, unlike stormtroopers who can't. So the original Snow Trooper costs 7. Basically, it's just a stormtrooper with 10 more HP. Unfortunately, I think that's fine. It still isn't going to basically survive one hit, but it's going to go back into C tier. I prefer the Scout Trooper. I'm just going to drop them somewhere down here in C tier. Not terrible. It's just, it's whatever. Stormtrooper, I'm actually going to go on a limb, and I'm actually going to put these guys straight in A tier. And the reason why, before I put them in B tier, because I was like, it only costs 5. But for costing 5 and for having the stats that it has, it is a incredible grunt unit for the Empire, and I think it warrants an A tier. So I'm gonna raise these guys to A tier just because of what they represent. Awesome defense. You can play around with them, do a lot of stuff to make them really hard to hit, make them more effective in a variety of ways, and I think they play great for the Empire. So I'm gonna raise them from B to A, and I think that's fair. See the elite Stormtrooper. These guys are basically identical to Elite Clone Trooper. I think I'd have to take a look at the stats again. I think the Elite Clone actually has worse defense. I don't remember exactly. I think they are solid. Originally, I put these guys into C tier. I think C tier, if I'm going to do C tier, I'm going to do above the Scout Trooper, because even though they're only going to sustain one hit, they do still got great defense. They got great attack. They can do the 20 damage. They just cost a little too much. I think maybe if they cost a 10, that'd feel a little bit better. Maybe even a 9, but I think 10 would feel a bit better for these guys. But that is way better, defense and attack than you're looking on like a Clone Trooper, which costs 1 less. So I think top of C tier, maybe even like, I'm going to do B tier. It's too high. I think that is probably still too high to do that. I'm going to do top of C tier still. Just raise them a little bit from what I did before. I prefer the Snow Trooper just because they cost 1 more, but they have the best defense and they can sustain 2 hits, which is a little bit better. Heavy Stormtrooper. I put these guys in C tier. They really aren't very good. A heavy weapon hold these guys back a lot. I'll put them up decently high in D tier just because they still have some potential with the high defense. Maybe swapping them around with Thrawn, but overall, like, who am I kidding? I put them in C tier before. I think they gotta be in D tier, in my opinion. Snow Trooper Officer, Stormtrooper Officer. I put these guys in B tier. So objectively, they have pretty crazy good stats for a 14. And then even with newer sets included, they have double still. Commander effect isn't the best thing ever, but it is something that's nice to help improve. It's kind of like a poor man's, cunning attack, not cunning, careful shot, basically. I don't know what I think. I put it in B tier before. I still think on Blue Milk they're not going to be a B tier character, but I'm going to put them at the bottom of B tier just because it's hard to argue with how good those stats are, even for 14. And the commander effect is still fine. It just probably isn't going to be used too much, so I'm gonna lower this guy a little bit to the bottom of B tier. Moff Tarkin, a decent character. So if this character has line of sight, then you can activate 3. You don't have to, but you can. So it's nice that it's optional. I think I put Moff Tarkin last time. I think I put Moff Tarkin down in C tier. I think B tier is a little bit more appropriate for Tarkin, just because even though it's not the tempo control power that most people prefer, it still can be very helpful depending on the situation. Like if you want to put Moff Tarkin into position to be able to do more, let you unlock more, I think that's actually still pretty nice because tempo is important. It's just probably one of my least favorite tempo powers. So I'll raise it to B tier. Tusken Raider, these guys aren't that great, but for a 4 kind of fodder character, it's not too terrible. It is nice because it is really cheap. I think I put these guys in D tier before, but let's see. They can get some things to make them better, absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to put them as top of D tier. They're a nice fodder for 4, but they're not that great at the end of the day. Twi'lek Bodyguard. For a bodyguard, they cost 10 to give you 30 HP. I'm going to do a video soon when it comes to comparing bodyguards. And when you compare the bodyguards, I just like to look at the cost to HP ratio. And these guys' cost to HP ratio, it's actually not so good, to be honest. It's like 3 to 1, whereas other people have just better ones where it could be like 4 to 1 or maybe 5 to 1. It's one of the worst ones. It's not the worst, but for being a little cheaper, this is the funny part. It's cheaper than these Royal Guards, but the Royal Guards they have better defense. They can maybe attack a little bit better. So there is that going for them. But when you're looking strictly bodyguards, I'm actually going to put this above the Royal Guard just because if you have a bodyguard, it's just there for the HP. And in my opinion, there are better bodyguards, but Royal Bodyguard's still not terrible, or the Twi'lek Bodyguard's still not terrible. Darth Vader Sith Lord. I put Darth Vader Sith Lord in B tier before. I think that's still fine for this guy. I think B tier, not even like the highest B tier, just because you cost 60, you have great stats, basic special abilities, and sweep is whatever. So I think this is still fair for this character. I don't want to go any higher just because it can be a force to be reckoned with just on raw stats and raw power, but other Darth Vaders just have more bells and whistles that make them more interesting, more fun, more scary, and that way this guy has to stay down here, B tier. So next is Darth Vader Dark Jedi. Last time I had him at a C tier. I actually still think this guy is not very good, so I don't know. Your stats are similar to other Vaders at 50. Your abilities, you're missing dark armor. A lot of the newer ones typically have it. Grip's fine, sweep's kind of boring, and then the commander effect is pretty wacky. Yeah, really wacky. I'm actually going to lower this one from C tier to probably the bottom of C tier. Actually, maybe top of D tier. I just don't think this is a very good Darth Vader at all. I think it's a little too scary. Like, I can't think of any situation I'd use this Vader. I'd use any other Vader over this one. And because of that, I think I just have to do D tier. Even though it's not the worst, but it's not very good. General Veers, non-unique followers. Within 6 squares, gain accurate shot. Do I still think that is worth S tier? Oh boy. It's really dang good power. Giving a lot of people accurate shot. Just non-unique followers, so it's a little limited. But you can give some really important characters accurate shot, and it can help them out pretty tremendously. I'm going to do top of A tier just because at the end of this game, man, S tier still feels really good for him. I'm going to do bottom of S tier, not like an S+. Like I say, I may do S+ tier in the future to really signify some of those later characters that are just so incredibly powerful. I'm going to keep it at S tier. I just think even though I don't use Veers too much, you have good stats, And for 21, it is pretty sweet to give a lot of people accurate shots, and that can go a long way. Accurate shots a great power to have, so I'll have to keep it there. Next is the Wampa. I put Wampa too high in C tier before. I actually don't know if this Wampa's real all that great. You do have Savage. You don't cost too much. 13, but you do have 50, 16, 7, and 10. The 10's kind of disappointing. It would be nice if it was like a 20, but you do have Rend 20. I'm gonna be fair and just put this at bottom of C tier. I still think it's good enough to avoid D tier, but even if you saw my Savage video, it's not actually too bad. So let's do down here. Rebel Commando, actually no, Wookiee Soldier. These guys stink. Sorry, Wookiees. You're still in D tier. Let's see. Oh, did I miss? Yeah, I accidentally skipped some cards. Who did I skip? I might have not selected everything. Oh, there is one. Rebel Commando. These guys aren't that great, unfortunately. Yeah, I think the original Rebel Commando, when I rated it, I put it in... let's see here. I think I put the original Rebel Commando into... Is it C tier? There, it's in C tier. This guy's low C tier again. It's not that good. I know it's much better with the Strike Leader, with Maydeen, but the Veteran Rebel Commando costs exactly the same and is more of like a B tier, A tier character, maybe a high B tier. This guy's still a low C tier in my opinion, just for what it offers, so it's kind of too bad. And then the last one, last but not least, I don't even need to find the card for this guy. Yeah, I don't even need to find the card for it. It's just the Twi'lek Scoundrel. These guys aren't that cool. I'm going to throw them down in D tier. I don't like them very much, so... Okay, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick update. I haven't made too many changes to Rebel Storm, honestly. I think the Stormtroopers, they really needed to go up. And a few characters kind of sifted down more. So there's more D tier. Maybe a couple more C tier than I had before. But overall, I think it's pretty unchanged from the tier list that I did 2 years ago. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video. Definitely like, subscribe, comment down below. And until next time, have a good one.